scroll up to the top, Roxanne, for a sec, and click on the show search criteria. It's a big button. Right there. Hit build new report. Okay, and then just say search and start the report. Okay. Now, if you scroll down, basically this allows you to even edit some of the verbiage, if you will. Scroll on down a little bit further, all the way down to the bottom, and say do it.
Do it.
Okay, so this basically kind of gives you your assets, sums up your assets and your total liability. It kind of makes it look a little bit more.
I asked Carmen to print out the financial statements for me. And I was kind of going,
Whoa, whoa.
Well,
yeah.
there's so many different ways to look at what you
I was
need.
sure that was the case.
Uh-huh.
But from Carmen's standpoint, she doesn't look at them anyway. So she just printed the first available.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it wasn't dressy enough to show something.
Sure, sure.
You know, or if I'd have taken this to my banker, you know, he would have been like,
What?
She may have never went that far, in all honesty.
Oh, no,
She's not too, yeah.
well, my guess is that Bruce hasn't asked for it either. So, but when I asked for the print, this is, and I brought that along, this is what I get.
Yeah, for sure.
There's got to
For
be
sure.
another version here, and that's the version
There
there.
is.
That,
This
That's
version,
right.
this is a great, fast working, quick version. What do I have? Like, just kind of just show it to me. And then the other one kind of says, hey, here's your assets, here's your total assets, here's your liabilities, your equity, etc.
Because
It
things
kind of
weren't
breaks out.
sorted in exactly the right way, and I just,
Correct,
yeah,
correct,
this
yeah.
was really what I was.
And so also, like, if you had entered in some assets, you know, maybe you already put some furniture or a startup, you know, something that you put in there, if you actually added them in, they would show up down here. They would start showing up down here. You'd be able to click on the links to whatever expense or deposit or whatever you did here, whatever.
I was just concerned about the overall presentation,
Do that.
because the view lookup was still printed out, and
Sure, sure,
and
sure.
the other stuff, it's like that one you exported to Excel. I didn't want to have to go in and delete some lines, I just like a cleaner version of that.
So correct, correct. So, and each page, like I know that people don't like to read, but we put a help file on each page that hopefully does say, hey, if you want to dress this up, go here and do this and this. So we try to help out where we can. Yeah.
You know, just going back to something you said earlier that I was kind of thinking about. You know, when you were entering something, it was going to be like ready and you choose that no bank to sign on, right? Was there anything under the balance sheet when you do that?
Okay, so when you say no bank assigned,
Yeah.
are you saying for reimbursement or for like the on account?
Yeah, let's say on account, say I'm buying something on account.
Okay, so what it does is it basically, because your bank is a separate entity, what it does is it starts going like this. Hey, my main expense had $50. I've got enough line items to make up the $50, potentially attributed to wherever, but my payment is way lacking. So guess what? I can do some math. I have a zero payment and a total value here. I'm going to calculate your accounts payable. So it does do something.
So it will adjust the accounts payable.
It basically throws that accounts payable higher because you have the zero on account, no bank assigned.
So what does it do to counteract that?
What does it do to counteract
Yeah, I
that?
mean, to make the balance sheet better.
Okay, so basically what happens there, if I buy something on account,
Yeah.
what happens is I attribute it to the different places. So it potentially gets, say, the expense portion of the P&L,
Okay.
and then all of a sudden it hikes up my accounts payable because it's short paid on that. So basically, because one of them's on the P&L and one of them's on the balance sheet, eventually the P&L has to crunch all of its number and get to net profit, and then
Yeah.
it takes net profit and sticks it over on the balance sheet, so it
So
eventually
it's
kind
kind
of
of like a retained earnings, like equity portion?
correct.
to-
Yep, it pulls it across on that piece of revenue. Yuri, you got some great questions. Those are
Well,
deep.
we haven't even reconciled one thing in
Yeah,
here,
yeah,
so
yeah.
it's kind of hard to.
We're just playing with things, but that's what happens. And what you may want to do is you may want to say, what is that place I log in? And go in and play with it, okay? If I do this, what happens? And I do pre and post checks. Like, if I do this, what happens here? Like, kind of check. We're trying to get closer and closer to actually help people know what the mapping is. Like we keep saying, hey, we map back to that, we map back to that. I just can't get it out quick enough. But we're hiring people to kind of help us so that we can actually get that mapping out. Like once you learn it, you're like, oh my goodness, now I know how to play it. Sweet, here's how it maps. Like, that's where we're headed with that. So,
I would also guess if you're halfway into a transaction, that transaction is just kind of out there in ether space until you
correct.
tell it to accept it or something, because, so any that pending transaction if you ran a financial statement, you wouldn't pick that up because you didn't give the system enough information to even grasp half of it. So
Correct. There's another piece of the puzzle that we'd like to do eventually, and this, I know it's a bad word, but we've actually already planned it. It's a thing that says known problems. So basically, because the system knows certain pieces of the mapping, what if we actually put a flag on the little item, kind of like, hey, I'm still missing this, or whatever, like, and then you click on this known problems report, if you will, and it kind of goes, hey, just so you know, I don't match, and I don't match, and oh, I was potentially in the wrong spot. So instead of saying, go to the balance sheet and try to find it, why don't we go to the problem child, fix the problem child? Basically, it helps out the balance sheet incredibly, because all of a sudden, you're no longer searching for the needle in the haystack, you're going right to the problem, right to the source. So that's a fun little option that might be coming down the pipeline.
And we haven't even worked up to the balance sheet, as everybody knows. So, like, you know, there's a couple different processes to get to reconciling. I mean, without getting further into that, you can either go to your expense receipt homepage or your deposit homepage, and you could actually bulk verify. And you can do it, say, all the way up till today for your bank account. And you can actually sit there, all the ones we didn't put a verify date in because we didn't see it in the bank, you can actually bulk verify right here. And that's one step for reconciliation. Then you can actually reconcile your bank account. And then you can do it for, you know, the month of October, and then you have to sit there and check the boxes again so that you reconcile. You know, so there's a lot of different steps up to the balance sheet, I guess. And then once you get all them steps in place and everything's verified and everything's posted, and then you look at your balance sheet, then you start tweaking those numbers and fixing the problems and finding your out of balance issues and whatever you need to do. So
awesome. So
That's
Roxanne's taking us on a huge tour of kind of like, here's how you do this, and here's how you do this, and here's how it does some of this. There are cause and effect relationships that are happening behind the scenes, and what it is it all deals with basically the virtual relationships that are being created. Okay, so these reimbursements that needed to be paid off, eventually I tied them all together, tied them to one giant expense where I was going to pay some physical money out, and it starts holding all that as its luggage virtually. Okay.
So yeah, my time is up.
Roxanne, we want to say thank
For
you
real.
again. Great job.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And then I'll start remembering names, and then I won't see half of you next time.
Okay, great. Let's go ahead and do this. Are there any questions for Roxanne before she takes off or anything? Okay, let's do a small break. We'll do a 10-minute break, and then we will come back in. And I'm going to re-enter with Joe. He had a payroll question and a time card question. And so we are going to kind of re-enter into the payroll and time card area. But let's go ahead and do a 10-minute break right now, okay? Thank you, Roxanne.
Thanks, Roxanne.
It was good to meet you too.
Thank you.